I'm Roger Derling. I'm the executive director of the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. And welcome to the Outstanding Directors of the Evening Award, of the Year Award. I need to thank, it's my pleasure to thank Nora McNeely Hurley Foundation for sponsoring the film festival. Nora and Michael are superstars, and thank you to them. The board of directors of the film festival, thank you. And to the hundreds of donors who made the Film Center possible. Thanks to all of them, and the volunteers that helped make SBIFF the thriving force that we are. Tonight, you're in for an amazing evening. Scott Feinberg is one of the best at moderating, so, and I'm just glad to be able to welcome him back year after year. He's been a long-standing friend of myself, as well as the Santa Barbara Film Festival. He's the executive editor of awards for The Hollywood Reporter, and the host of the critically acclaimed Awards Chatter podcast. Please join me in welcoming a great friend of Santa Barbara, Scott Feinberg. Oh, there you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Roger, and good evening, everyone. It's a thrill anytime to be in Santa Barbara, especially for the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, and especially for the Directors Award evening, which I really feel lucky to get to moderate each year, because each year in and year out, this festival attracts really a remarkable showing of world-class filmmakers, particularly for this panel. And this year is certainly no exception. 4 amazing filmmakers are with us tonight, each of whom is among the 5 Best Director Oscar nominees this year. And absolutely, give them a round of applause. Tonight, we are going to celebrate their work individually and then collectively. And as you'll see in here, they have incredibly different backgrounds and styles, but they have all made in years past, and especially this year, beautiful films that really stay with you in a profound way. And we're gonna get into why that might be and what those are. So, you know, if you haven't seen them, you're gonna leave tonight with a list of great films to look forward to seeing soon, and then of course the 4 for which they're nominated this year. And the best part is, they range in age from 39 to 51. This is a pretty young and exciting group of filmmakers who we have a lot of great films to look forward to in the years to come. But our first filmmaker, first honoree this evening, who we'll be bringing out in a moment, is a 43-year-old from China who just 5 years ago became only the 2nd woman and first woman of color ever to win the Best Director Oscar. That was for a wonderful movie called Nomadland. And this year, she is back with another wonderful film for which she is personally nominated for the Best Director and Best Adapted Screenplay Oscars. Her film is nominated for the Best Picture Oscar, and we are gonna take a look at it now. Let's watch a scene from Hamnet, directed by Chloe Zhao. Please welcome this year's first Director of the Year honoree, Chloe Zhao.
Wow, such a big room. Hello.
Chloe, welcome. Thank you so much for making the time to be here. And you've had, your life journey is really one of a kind. It's been amazing. I wonder if you can give us the broad overview of how someone born and raised in China at a time when you didn't even have access to very many films, as you've described it, wound up coming to America and becoming a filmmaker. Where did you get hooked?
Oh, where did I get hooked on filmmaking?
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy yesterday. I got to do a Q&A with James Cameron. And my first ever Western film that I saw on the television in Beijing was Terminator 2. So, but I remember being so in awe and also confused how I could feel so much, because I cried so much at the end that I could feel for machines, you know, and towards entities that are not even human, and the power of storytelling, how that can connect us. But I never thought I could get to do that. It felt so far away. Not only until my late 20s, when I was admitted to film school, did I think maybe I could do this.
And I think that another kind of interesting part of your story is that not only do you wind up at NYU Tisch as a film student, as you say, a few years later than maybe would be a quote-unquote usually the case, but you then, with your earliest films, which I'll just remind folks, Songs My Brothers Taught Me, The Rider, and Nomadland, really were drawn to the American West. And I wonder if you've been able to even kind of figure out why there was that particular attraction.
Well, when I was growing up in Beijing, I always, whenever I hear Mongolian music, I would cry. You know, I think there's something, and recently Max Richter told me that when they ask a Mongolian musician, what is Mongolian music? And then he said, Mongolian music is, when I get on a horse, I want to sing. And that's the definition of Mongolian music. There's no rules. It's an individual embodied experience, an embodied connection to the divine and to something bigger, to the mystery. And I think that is something I was subconsciously yearning for. Have not grown up with spirituality. So when I was living in New York, I felt I wanted that. And South Dakota, the Badlands, became that place for me.
Something that those earlier films had in common, even Nomadland, which, yes, starred and was produced by Frances McDormand, absolutely a movie star, but even with her, you cast non-professional actors, actors who had not acted, or people who had not acted before. And that was everybody, I think, in the first two films. And I wonder, was there another filmmaker who influenced your desire to work in that way, or what was it that drew you in those earlier films to non-professionals?
It was definitely Werner Herzog and his work massively, but also I went to NYU and I went to the Sundance Labs, and there were filmmakers at that time that were making film with non-professional actors that I was watching in film school, and Josh Safdie was one of them. Yes. And so was Ben Zeilen. And I remember watching Beast of Southern Wild when it premiered Sundance. That's when I went to the screenwriters labs. So it was quite popular when I was in school. And of course, when I did it was out of necessity, but I was definitely drawn to the absolute raw presence I get from a non-professional actor.
I think that something I'm also going to ask Ryan Coogler about when he comes out. You guys both started out as, you know, very indie, bare bones kinds of projects. I think you've said you were the chef, you were the, you know, everything on the set.
When you have 5 people on a film set.
That's it. You do everything.
Take your pick. Yeah.
So just to kind of underscore that, The Rider was made for a wonderful, wonderful movie, made for $80,000. Then you go to Nomadland, $5 million. Then you go to Marvel with Eternals, $236 million. How, you know, was that as jarring as it sounds to me like it would be, or how did you acclimate?
You know, when you're repressed for so long and suddenly you're given everything. No, it's on one hand, you're like, it's amazing. People are showing up to work and things get done for you. But at the same time, I also learned I can't just go like, oh, wait a minute, I would like to point this direction because I'm feeling something, and then you realize 500 people have to move. So it's give and take. But what was great was that I was very protected in that experience, and the core people, the core 20-some people, your HODs, they don't change. And then the core 4 people that you dance with on set also don't change. So if you can put your blinders on, it wasn't too big of a difference for me.
So I wonder if you could explain why you have called the 4 years between Eternals and Hamnet this is a quote, midlife crisis. What do you think was percolating during those years, and to the point where when you were approached effectively by Steven Spielberg and Sam Mendes, 2 fellow Oscar-winning filmmakers, about Hamnet, there was a little bit of a pause before saying yes. So what was leading up to Hamnet that affected your decision?
It was, I learned very humbly that there are 4 seasons to a person's life, and to a day, to a creative cycle. And I didn't understand the importance of winter. And I think living in modern society, we don't like winter because it isn't as productive as summer. And so we tend to, get through winter as if it's still summer. And that was true for me in terms of the ecosystem of my own creativity. I was in my 30s, 4 films. I did not have any time to winter, to let things die, to decompose, and to rejuvenate the soil. So towards the end, whenever there's a seed planted, I could push so hard and it just wouldn't grow. And it started to feel very unnatural, both internally and externally for me. And I crashed. It's because if you don't winter, nature will force you to. Whether it's land completely no longer fertile or an inner ecosystem totally crashed. And that's what happened to me. So I spent 4 years trying to allow things to actually die, which is a really uncomfortable feeling, and then also sitting in the process of the compost, the chrysalis. So by the time when a little bird dropped a seed that's Hamnet into that soil, it was growing with the energy, the fertility that I was missing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And in terms of saying no to...
Well, yeah, I want to, before you even answer that, if I can add on to that question, the thing with Hamnet, we should say, is that in all of your prior films, if there was in several cases, there was not a mother character, and when there was, she wasn't exactly a role model. Was that coincidental? Was that a factor in your hesitation about Hamnet, or not Hamnet itself, but your wanting to be part of it?
I think you can probably tell because I don't know how to properly winter, and it's because I never feel safe to stop, right, and to just be. And that's because I have a wounding around mother, and that is, I think, we as a species do. This is because what happened to feminine consciousness in all people for tens of thousands of years, and that's the most painful wounding because that is what's supposed to hold you, love you unconditionally, and see you and accept you unconditionally. So you actually don't have that kind of fear to return one day to that, right? And so when you don't feel safe and held, you just keep going, keep going. And so I was afraid to touch that kind of character, and Hamnet was a mother load of mother. It was so much mothering. But I didn't realize also when I crashed, just like if I don't refertilize that soil, if I don't work on that wounding, it's going to make the second half of my life really unbearable. And so I did a lot of work in those 4 years, and I still was not ready when that project came, but I was more ready than I was 4 years ago. And the process of making that film, I would say definitely added to my healing journey, so.
Last thing I'm gonna, yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Also, sometimes maybe it's easier for somebody on the outside to see it than it is for the person themselves. But I know from a recent interview that, you know, no less great filmmaker than Steven Spielberg was saying, to him, you were the only person as a producer who he could imagine for this job because of the role that nature and your sensitivity and your empathy has played in your prior films. And I want to close with asking you about the way you approached working with the people you surrounded yourself with on Hamnet. So Jessie Buckley as Agnes, and Paul Mescal as William Shakespeare, and the rest. I have never seen, and again, Spielberg and these other folks that said they had never seen anyone employ the kinds of techniques that you did in terms of working with not just the movie stars on the set, but the whole crew. And I mean, there were everything from kind of a guided meditation that you would do to literally in a scene or ahead of a scene where Jessie Buckley's character was giving birth in the forest, to literally lying down next to her and kind of talking it through with her. That's not something we ever saw Alfred Hitchcock do or others. And I think you've
sure?
As far as I'm aware, maybe. But tell me, like, you know, just how did you arrive at these kind of unconventional ways of getting the best out of the people around you?
And I feel like this is the audience that can understand what I'm about to say. Because, you know, I lived in Ojai for 6 years, and I kind of know the vibe. But I see that actors, you know, performers are like modern day shamans. And, you know, shamans, they will put their bodies through really intense experiences, right? Really extreme experience, so their consciousness can shut down, and they can channel something through that the tribe wants them to channel through, and then give it back as a performance to the tribe as medicine, right? And that's been in all indigenous cultures. And I see actors as modern day shamans, and I think but for them to do that channeling work, in the old days, when you have a ceremony, there's a proper opening to that ceremony, and then there's a proper closing. So the shamans can go home and still be a father and a mother and a friend and a lover and a human being. And I think there's a reason why, like the type of, you know, the method acting is sometimes you see people making fun of the situation. Why actors feel like they need to do it is because we're expecting them to leave their trailer and then walk to set, and then immediately drop into where the characters are. And so sometimes they have no choice but to stay in that state of mind. And so that's not healthy for them. And when you're conducting a ceremony like that, it's not just for your actors, it's actually every single person who is working on that ceremony, from the person who's lighting the fire to the person who's playing the drum. Everybody feels healed in the end, because they all feel like they're entering something together, and then they do this performance, and then they close it together, and then they can then have a meal around the fire as who they are instead of the roles they play. So I feel like sometimes we become very casual modern day about the work that we do, but it's actually quite sacred, and it shouldn't be taken casually. And that's why we take the cynicism out, and we really open the container, and then we close it as one village.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I knew you would understand.
Exactly. The last thing I'll just note is that, you know, while it's true that Hamnet has single-handedly caused a spike in Kleenex sales all around the world, it was not, and you can go and look at this up yourselves at home afterwards, not always a heavy thing, very deliberately because of you on set. There is a fantastic clip that was recently shared publicly after the scene that was taken after the heavy scene that we introduced Chloe with, when Rihanna was then blasted and everybody was dancing on set. So whatever you're doing, it's working, and keep it up, and we're so happy you're here. And please stay with us for a minute. We'll bring you back after as well with the group. But right now, I want to introduce a clip of our next honoree's work. He is a 51-year-old Danish-Norwegian who is nominated for the Best Director and Best Original Screenplay Oscars, and whose film is nominated for a total of 9 Oscars. And I should note that only 3 other non-English language films in history have ever received more than that. Let's take a look now at a scene from Sentimental Value, directed by Joachim Trier. Please welcome our second Director of the Year award honoree, Joachim Trier.
Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you for being here. I guess similar to Chloe, I'd love to start by just talking about, you know, the role that film did or didn't play in your early years growing up, initially in Denmark, right? In your case, I think it sort of is in the blood.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I think you're referring to my family background.
Yes.
Yeah. So my grandfather, Erik Löken, he's not so known over here, but he was a filmmaker, and he had a rather special story where he was in the resistance during the war against the Nazi-occupied forces in Norway, and he was imprisoned, and he barely survived. But the rather beautiful thing was that after the war, even though he was very traumatized, he started making first jazz music. Actually, he was very inspired by American jazz music, and then also wanted to make movies. So he made a film that he called a jazz film called The Hunt in 1960, and he was, you know, completely unexpectedly invited to the Cannes Film Festival. And all the French people said to him, he told us that, oh, well, you made the Nouvelle Vague, New Wave. And no, it's a jazz movie. What are you talking about? He didn't know. I mean, he was from Norway, so he hadn't seen all those things that were going on. There wasn't an infrastructure in Norway at the time to make so many films, so he only made one more. But yeah, so I guess like I grew up with the admiration and dream of world cinema, you know.
And we'll just note that however many years after his film was there, 50, 60 years later, Sentimental Value won the grand prize at the Cannes Film Festival. It's kind of a poetic thing.
Thank you.
Now, other members of your family were also in the world of film in a way, right?
Yeah, well, you have a word for this? Nepo baby? That's me. So, yeah, my dad's a sound designer. Yeah, we love talking sound. I went and saw the wonderful F1 with him in an IMAX screen recently, and we were like, yeah, you know, like talking about what sound means. It's fantastic. And my mom did documentary films and then went into news. So I'm one of those people that, you know, I wasn't great at school, and I'm super grateful that they allow me to do this stuff and make movies, because that's all I know how to do.
No, we're lucky. And I will say, basically all of your films, going back, what's it, at this point, like 15 plus years, have been set in and around Oslo, where I believe you also live. Talk about, you know, that's obviously a decision. Is that because you want to tell the story of Oslo in different ways? Is it because you're most comfortable working there? What is it that keeps you coming back there to tell the stories that you and your wonderful writing partner, Eskil Vogt, have set there?
Thank you for that question. I don't know. I mean, first of all, I live there, and I guess I grew up, with punk and hip hop when I was younger. I was a skater, and there was this sense of wanting to represent something that you get, like do-it-yourself spirit. That all my music friends were like, "How can we make songs in Norwegian or something that's local?" When we didn't have so much of that, we mostly imported stuff from other countries. So that's an aspect in my sort of gut reaction of wanting to create something, at least when I was younger. But it's also material. A city is material. It's material in the sense that you sit and write and you think, oh, that way that the sun comes up in that street in May, that's really interesting because the seasons change a lot in Norway, and that's beautiful. What if I could use that as an energy and show you, And I think there's this thing about showing you, that emphasis. I went to a weird seminar once. I'll get back to the question.
Take your time.
But they did this thing with kids. I went to a seminar and they talked about how does sort of kids work with a camera, film camera. They've done experiments. And they talked to the kids about narrative, which is very abstract, actually. Like, what do you want to tell? The kids were confused. At some point, they used the word show. They said, what do you want to show us? And all the kids made wonderful films. Like, oh, here's a place I saw a mouse, and the camera was a mouse. Or, this is my favorite part of kindergarten, or something. And I'm still very childish. I still want to show you something that I've seen. I believe that we all have some particular angle on the world, and that's a sort of a starting point often. So yeah, the city of Oslo, there's still streets I want to show you.
Well, yes. You just referred to, there might be a place in Oslo where the sunset or the sunrise looks beautiful. That's actually, I believe, a specific example of something that we see in your early film, Oslo, August 31st, which connects from that through the film you previously were Oscar nominated for, The Worst Person in the World, and then another great one.
Thank you.
And then to Sentimental Value. And I wonder if you can share the thread that connects those three.
No, thank you. You got good questions, man. I know what you're asking me. Yeah, so this leads us to talking about one of my great collaborators, Renate Reinsve, the actor. And she's wonderful. That you just saw on the bed here in the scene. She's the older sister in Sentimental Value, Nora. Yeah, so I had to find some young people to be part of Oslo August 31st, the moments when the sun comes up. It's a story that takes place in 24 hours in Oslo, one night and one morning, really. So, Renate Reinsve had to stay on set 9 days, even though she had one line of dialogue, because we were very particular about the light that came up. And you can only shoot sort of, half an hour of that every day, and then that light situation disappears and the sun's up. So I got to know her quite well. We shot a lot of days together, and she was really, really good. And I thought, okay, she's going to be a star. And then she went into theater more, and no one offered her anything. So by the time, that was 10, 12 years later, we wrote Worst Person in the World for her.
And so she was the lead in that film, which blew up, and then you and Eskil, I guess, wrote with her in mind for Sentimental Value as the daughter of a man who I want to ask you, first of all, played by the great Stellan Skarsgård, who's now for the first time at the age of 74 an Oscar nominee after an amazing career, as are all four actors in your film. It's really amazing. But Stellan's character, a filmmaker who may have focused at times more on his career than his family, wants to make it right before it's too late, kind of dances around his relationship with his daughters, in particular the Renate Reinsve character. Did you in any way draw upon earlier, generations of your own family and the experiences? I mean, because she is also an artist growing up in the home of an artist and wanting to have her own identity, but running into, just friction that I guess it could be in any business, but in this case, it happens to be, the film and entertainment business. I wonder how personal that really was for you.
Yeah, no, Thanks for that question. It is in indirect ways, I would say, very personal. I'm very, how should I say, I don't think Gustav Borg, the difficult father, the great director in the film we made, is based on anyone I know or any particular director, but I'm interested in that character because he's a man of a generation that grew up after the Second World War, and as we see in the beginning, he's a difficult father, and we start the film with the point of view of two adult women, two sisters grappling with this, trying to reconcile themselves with his absence and how difficult he is, and kind of how funny at times also, we have to be honest. But so I was interested in that there was some trauma that percolated through people that grew up, at least in my neck of the woods, after the war, being children of people who didn't allow themselves to have a language about the trauma of the war. There was this kind of stiff upper lip, let's move on, let's create a new society, let's not look back. And I understand that logic, but it also left a lot of unspokenness that also can generationally continue. And I was interested in the fact that I've met people in that generation that are so sensitive as artists and that have that possibility of talking about very subtle, complicated things in art, but in their social life are very clumsy and have a very difficult time to use their voice with their close relationship. I think that is interesting. So that's what we want to explore. And I have to just add, I'm very, 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 very happy and proud about Stellan's nomination. And he's someone that I admire for so long. And we wrote this part for him, not knowing him at all. I mean, I'd never met him. And he's done, what, 152 films, it says on IMDb. And before that, he's worked on stage with Ingmar Bergman and stuff as a director. I mean, I think he's one of the great actors we've had in cinema, you know? So I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for him.
I wonder if you can talk about, I mean, it's not a coincidence, I don't think, that you are able to get particularly powerful, moving performances out of the actors who you work with. And increasingly these days, from what I understand, directors are often working from what I guess people call video village, or just, they're more removed from the set than it used to be in the golden age of Hollywood or anything else. And yet you have made a very deliberate decision to situate yourself somewhere totally different when your films are being shot. Can you talk about where you are and why that is?
Yeah, it's very simple. I don't think I'm the only director, but I like to sit next to the camera and look with my eyes. And then I have a handheld monitor. I check the frame and I look at what's really going on. Because ultimately, the possibility in movies to create empathy is remarkable. And it's such a great experience to be in the movie theater like this and to look at a big face and to be allowed lovingly or with curiosity or skepticism even to look at a human face and stare in a way you would never be allowed in real life in social situations. You know, if you look at someone like this and stare at them, they think you're crazy or in love or something. You know, it's a bit, but in the movies we're allowed to have empathy and look at the other, you know, and I think that has a reconciliatory power to it somehow. And for me to judge what we're getting, I need to sit and stare. I use rehearsals a lot with actors, but we don't really perfectionize the scenes. We get used to each other and trust each other, and I want them to know that I really dig them. I think I'd never cast an actor that I'm not really enthusiastic about, because even though they're bad days, I love to film them. So they need to get used to me staring. So I sit there and I look at them and I feel like the scene you just saw with the sisters. I was on the floor next to the camera in both angles, and I wept. I was very moved, and there's this moment when she creeps into bed, and it wasn't written, and Inga, who's fantastic, who plays Inga Ipstotelidos, thank you, who won an award here.
Yes.
The other night.
Yes.
We're so proud of her, and she has this great instinct, and like the actors know better than me, always. They always know how it should work. So it's just giving them allowance. So I'm sitting there and I say, just do it. And I know what she's gonna do because I can feel it. And then she gets into bed and hugs her sister, and Renata is kind of shocked, but in a beautiful way, you know, and they embrace. And that, you know, I'm an old kind of punk guy with ironic tendencies from the 90s, you know? It's hard for me to make this stuff, but I wanted to make something that was more tender and about love, because actually that moves me the most. I think we live in hard times. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sure many here feels that. And there's a lot of polarization and stuff going on, and I have little kids, and I really wanted to make a film with some hope that even in the most difficult family, there is some sense that maybe there's an unspoken space to get closer to each other if we try and stuff. So anyway, thank you.
Well, thank you, Joachim. We are gonna be seeing you in a little bit when we bring the whole group out. But right now, I want to introduce a clip of the work from our third honoree. He's a 41-year-old New Yorker who is known for just the pace and craziness and inventiveness of his films, from Good Time to Uncut Gems to his most recent, for which he's nominated for the Best Picture, Director, Original Screenplay, and Film Editing Oscars personally. Let's take a look right now at a scene from Marty Supreme, directed by Josh Safdie. Yeah. All right. Please welcome another honoree for the Director of the Year award, Josh Safdie.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Welcome to Santa Barbara.
Beautiful Santa Barbara. Everyone told me the weather is amazing in Santa Barbara.
So, speaking of great weather, tell us about growing up in New York and just what kind of a film culture you and your brother, also a filmmaker, just were, a part of as kids.
Well, New York is, what's special about New York, in any city really, any walking city, is you have the luxury of interacting with. In New York, I walk from my house to my office and I pass probably 300 narratives. And we're all the stars of our own films. Hopefully there's only one narrator inside the brain. You never know sometimes. But so that, you encounter all walks of life, and there's if you're embracing it, it can teach you a lot. Growing up, my dad introduced us to film. He bought a camera in 1988. It was like this first quote unquote digital camera, not VHS, and he decided he loved movies. He's not American, and he was going to film us. He was going to discover reality. And he would do all these fucked up things, like tell me to go tell my brother he did this thing and then wait in the corner and film it to see how it unfolded. Or really simple juvenile things, just like me getting woken up with a slap to the face. And then you'd say stop filming and he just wouldn't move. So he was very interested in like what happens on camera. This is probably not great stuff, but he and then he would start to show us films to try to teach us about life. And early on, our parents were split pretty bad. They were having a nasty custody battle when my mom was coming back into the picture, and he showed us Kramer versus Kramer to try to prepare us for it. And and then he was talking, he was trying to explain to us, there's a big snowstorm, and he's like, all right, we're gonna do double bill, Shining and Misery. And so I didn't know like what was life and what was a movie, because things just seemed he was constantly kind of curating what was happening around us. And that combined with, again, like the pace of the city, obviously, a lot of characters. I had flawed people around me as a kid, and when you're a kid, you look up to them, you don't know they're flawed. So I tried to see the best in people and be as empathetic as I could.
Well, and the things you're referencing, it is interesting to see how they've shaped your work from the very earliest days, when I think people tried to put labels on, I think sometimes they would talk about mumblecore, right, and other things that
I was never
not.
embraced by that.
No, you were never what?
No, my first film was like, I remember it was that whole scene was happening,
Yes.
and then no one allowed me into that
Be
scene.
part of that.
No, they were just like, that's too weird. I made this very strange first film, and but anyway, sorry.
No,
yes.
well, just that I
We were
think
interested in reality, as you're
interested in reality, interested in New York,
Yep.
interested in real people. I mean, one of the things that has, I think, defined most, if not all, of your films, and has been recognized this year, the first year there's ever a Oscar for casting, where your film is among those nominated, is the thinking outside the box of who you're going to populate your film with. Chloe alluded to non-professional actors being part of her films and your films influencing that decision. But I mean, with you guys, it can be everything from let's put Kevin O'Leary as the bad guy in, or not the bad, that's a reductive.
No, but that's a distinction because you say bad guy.
Yeah.
It was very important that this guy showed up on camera.
Yeah.
He's doing nothing wrong. If you've seen the movie, actually, you should feel bad for him.
Yeah.
This young guy is hitting on his wife, but you see him and you don't like him.
Yeah.
You know that? He's an asshole.
Yeah.
And that's the power of casting, is that, again, you can come from anywhere. You could be in 1,000 movies, you can be in no movies, you could be on reality TV. You want that person's essence to be immediately apparent. Like, that person is the character and it's doing the work for you. So before Kevin O'Leary opens his mouth, he's the embodiment of corporate greed and the American dream, in quotes, and
he signed up for this, knowing
well, the cool thing about a billionaire is there are things you can't buy.
Right.
And experiences like that, they become attractive. Because I did pitch him, and I was nervous. When I went onto Zoom, it was like being on Shark Tank. And I had to, and I thought at any moment he was going to say, and for these reasons, I'm out. But he did. I really did. I was like, oh, I don't even know if he's into this. He's probably got to have better stuff to do than talk to me. And then he all of a sudden switched. And next thing you know, he's flying me to do table readings. And again, he said, he's like, I would pay money to do this.
Yeah, yeah. And it is, but it's not like one-offs. These are, you see a guy flipping out after a Knicks game and he gets a big role in this film. You see, it's just amazing how outside the box you've always been with these, but then also at the same time, something made you think, even before I think you'd finished the script with Ron Bronstein, that Timothée Chalamet is the guy to play a 1950s Jewish ping pong player. So I just wonder what led you, specifically in this case with
Table tennis, by the way.
Pardon me, table tennis, to Timothy.
You often try to write with someone in mind. I also see films as documentaries. And again, it's that idea that you're seeing the person for who they are. I met Timmy just before Call Me By Your Name, 3 or 4 months before that. And I was introduced to him. Agent came up to me, and you're like, oh no, already. They're like, I want to introduce you to the next superstar. And you're like, oh God, it's already not looking good. But he brings me to this young man, and he's in the corner of this room. He can't stand still, and he's just got this hungry energy, this intense dream. Like, his dream, you could feel other people believed in it. That's how powerful it was. And he was Timmy Supreme. That's who he was. And I immediately was attracted to it. And then I saw Call Me By Your Name a few months later. And he was on stage after filming New York Film Festival, and he couldn't sit still. He's moving around so much. Were you there?
I think I was.
And then he fell off. He fell off the chair. And everybody laughed just like that. But it was interesting because we all laughed because we felt like we were his guest. We were there as an invitation from him, and he had that intimacy to him. And then I watched him do all these films, and his style of acting is this larger-than-life realism, very unique. And a great actor can be iconic with very small expressions, and he's able to expand the walls of a film, like high-fidelity sound in a weird way. And I was shocked to see other filmmakers weren't exploring this side of him that I saw. And I was excited about that too. I was like, please, no one do it. But because I had spent 6 years writing this for him. So it was written for him and developed with him, and the backstory, starting when his character is born, leading all the way up until, actually, technically, we wrote him all the way till 1985 when he's at a Tears for Fears concert listening to Everybody Wants to Rule the World with his granddaughter.
Oh my God.
Hearing that line. That's why the movie has the 80s anachronistic sound, because it's being told the future's haunting the past.
So have we definitely seen the last of Marty Mauser, or could there be a...
No, well, we had originally, we had even paid for the prosthetics. We saw Marty in his 60s with his granddaughter, but unfortunately, Kevin O'Leary pops up and takes a bite out of his neck. And that was in the script.
Yeah.
He's a real vampire. So then he would be frozen in time at 60. But we didn't do that, we didn't shoot it. The movie had to end with the humility of seeing your child and looking into its eyes and seeing infinity. And that was essential, so you didn't want to see anything after it. There's no more Marty.
No more Marty, okay, all right. Well, that does sound interesting.
You never know. I mean, I'm almost 70 years old. I'd be like, oh.
See what Timmy's
1992.
Well, the other thing that you've done with this that I want to talk about is surround yourself with the most experienced, accomplished craftsmen. And I want to just shout out two and ask you to talk about them, because the thing, I guess they help to facilitate what you and Ron Bronstein, who both write and edit your films, which is such an unusual, rare...
Well, it's great. We don't have to respect the writers.
in post, editing, throw out their work. But like the idea, the pace of your movies is so unusual, but now we're seeing it more and more, I think, copied by others. But the fact that we can get so immersed in the stories is partly because you have literally got probably the greatest living production designer, Jack Fisk.
Crazy.
As you're recreating 1950s New York for you. You're shooting it with Darius Kanji, who is known as the Prince of Darkness for the way that he
doesn't light,
and doesn't light. Just talk about how you wind up assembling the team that you do and kind of working with them to, I think it all contributes to us being able to believe that we're back in 1950s New York.
One of the things that I wanted to do with this movie is that I had kind of this slight allergy to a period film. So this is not a period movie. It's a contemporary film that was shot in 1952. That's the feeling, and that's what I said to Jack. And I actually met with Jack when I first started trying to do the movie, and he was working on Killers of the Flower Moon, and he wasn't available, and I just said, please just meet me, please. And I met with him, and I asked him how he made contemporary glass look period, because it was not machine made. And I was a pet peeve of mine. So he loved that I had that question. He told me the trick of the trade, but I won't reveal it to people here. And then the movie finally ended up happening. I went back to him, and he is a historian. He's kind of a U.S. historian, and the films he's done, The New World, The Revenant, and Tree of Life, and obviously There Will Be Blood. These films, Badlands, these films do chronicle. Killers of the Flower Moon was the hardest because that was a real hidden history. He likes hidden histories. He likes things that don't have explicit references. He likes to create them. And he said to me, Josh, I'm going to design a documentary for you. Because he's like, I know you're going to shoot with a long lens, and you might spin the camera this way. And he's like, I want you to be able to do that. And he did. And he would text me at 3 in the morning, oh my God, how are we going to find 38 millimeter balls? Because they stopped making them in 2001. And, that kept him up at night. And Jack's going to be 80, but he's the youngest person I've ever met. He is so youthful. He's forever young, and that's so important. Passion keeps you young. Passion and taking your passion seriously and being foolishly serious and seriously foolish, these are the things that keep you young and curious. And he's all of those things, and he's honestly one of the greatest artists I've ever met. Yeah. And it's unbelievable that he's made all these movies and not really recognized sometimes.
He has somehow not yet won an Oscar, which
unbelievable to me.
Badlands, Carrie, Days of Heaven.
He built that whole house in Days of Heaven out of plywood.
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy, by himself. Like Terrence Malick, Mulholland Drive, he grew up with David Lynch. He did all, you know, he was the man in the moon. He was, guys, Jack Fisk. Don't get me started on Jack. Yeah. When I got Jack, when Jack agreed to do this film, I was, you know, I was happy I made a new friend. It's like that. Everyone in this film, we were so passionate. We were all there together, and every single thing was just as important as the next, and we all knew that. A prop was just as important as a piece of costume, was just as important as an actor. It was all the same. There was a real democracy there. And Darius and Jack and myself, we all just felt, it's corny to say, we felt like kids, you know, and it was, time didn't exist. Time is the enemy, you know, and that's why when you do a period piece in particular, you really have to think that way. Yeah. Time is this ever-expansive thing.
Well, I'm excited to get to continue to pick your brain in a few minutes, but right now we are going to introduce our final of tonight's 4 honorees, and so, or at least the clip of their work. And this is a 39-year-old phenom from Oakland, came out of the womb making great films like Fruitvale Station, to much bigger scale stuff like the Creed films, the Black Panther films, and now a film for which he's nominated for the Best Picture, Director, and Original Screenplay Oscars. Let's take a look at the most Oscar-nominated film of all time now, Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler. Please welcome, last but not least, another Director of the Year award honoree, Ryan Coogler. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And I will say also thank you for being on today's new cover of The Hollywood Reporter, which we're so thrilled to have you on that. Let's go back, if we can, to your childhood in Oakland. I think you've talked about having some really profound experiences going to the movies in the very theater in which I believe it was Sinners later had, or certainly some of your films have later screened. It's kind of a full circle thing. Take us back to where it all started for you going to the movies.
Yeah, it's a theater in Oakland called the Grand Lake Theater. Oh, there's some folks from the Bay out there. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's beautiful, man. It has like they call it like Oakland's movie polish, and it's got a really cool marquee. It's had the same owner there for decades, and he puts like real fun stuff on the marquee. Sometimes like crazy political statements, you know, and it's kind of like a arts district for Oakland. A lot of pride there. They used to have like the festival by the lake and stuff, and yeah, my dad took me to see Malcolm X there, opening weekend. You know, it was like Friday night. Like a 7 o'clock showing, and I remember just having my mind blown, you know, in that theater. Watched a lot of seminal movies there. Boys in the Hood, I watched. Matter of fact, I got it backwards, matter of fact. Boys in the Hood I saw first, and then it was Beauty and the Beast, and then Malcolm X. Yeah.
It's quite a triple header. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was like, I think Boys dropped 91. I was born in 86. So I was like 5 years old watching that crazy ass movie. And it's funny too, because that's the first movie I ever seen that's interesting, like rest in peace, Rob Reiner. But I remember when I got older, I saw Stand By Me. And I was like, oh yeah, right. And you know, like Stand By Me, the whole movie is about them going to see the dead body. And John, rest in peace, he wrote that first bit around that kind of a setup, and you know, it struck me like how movies can inspire certain things, and because I had seen Boys first at such a young age, I thought that Boys came before Stand By Me when I saw it, right? But no, it's I don't know how we got on that tangent, but no, it's a great theater, bro. It's a good place for people to talk at the screen too, man. Like when you watch a movie there, you know, people shout out just crazy shit, you know, at the screen, and it becomes like an interactive experience. And when we premiered Sinners there last year, it was like the most. It was just like the most insane screening I'd ever been at in my life. I just couldn't believe the shit people were saying. Like, you know, I knew some of the people saying it too. You know what I mean? Like, man, it's a great theater though.
So this movie, Sinners, I mean, when you think about your journey of the last, I think about approximately 13 years ago was Fruitvale. That was a movie that, I'm trying to remember, $900,000 cost to make it?
Something around there. Yeah, it was a lot of grants and yeah, but it was like it was just under $1 million. I was
Cobbled together.
Yeah.
You've said you didn't expect it to even be seen outside of Oakland, and that was the beginning of an unbelievable. I mean, we were just talking about, as of about 3 weeks ago, there's by two, not even by one, by two. You've now made the most Oscar-nominated movie of all time. It's an unbelievable. Can you just, how do you process what has happened? Obviously, there's the steps in between that I referenced with, you know, jumping to a big franchise with the Creed films, jumping then to Marvel with the Black Panther films, and it's not like this came out of nowhere. You've had amazing success all along the way, but when you kind of look back at where this all came from, how do you process it?
I try to keep it in perspective as best I can. I try to keep it in perspective in a healthy way. I came up playing football and I used to play wide receiver, and this is something I don't like. I don't admit publicly, but but it, you know, there was a few times when I was in high school where I made like very long runs, and I was like so surprised that I was making this run and I was about to score that I would start celebrating early. And I got caught like at the 1 yard line a couple times, and it's an awful feeling, like, and that still haunts me, like to this day. You know, it didn't happen when I was in college, you know. And one time when I scored a touchdown in college, I got in trouble the other way because I kept running, and then I got a penalty. But like with that, you kind of learn the habit of not like looking back at any particular accomplishment, and just trying to keep your eyes, you know, going forward and going downfield. But like you know, I got me and Zenzi, my producer partner. We got 3 kids now. Our parents are still with us, but they're getting older, you know. And I'm starting to get to a point in life where I'm becoming more comfortable with reflection, and trying to get myself to enjoy moments of good fortune, because I've had moments of bad fortune. You know what I mean? You know that things don't always work out like you want them to. So I'm trying to find a healthy balance of enjoying it, but not acknowledging it, you know, too much, because I'm not sure what it all means anyway. You know, I'm really proud of all of my collaborators. Like, I think they did some of their best work. I think they're some of the best artisans and craftspeople in the world, and seeing what they gave to the movie and seeing it up close, I was incredibly impressed. So I'm not surprised that people in their respective guilds think that their work was an example of what they do, you know, and they wanted to celebrate them. But when I think about it for myself, you know what I mean, it gets a little intense. So I try not to reflect on it that way too much. Oh, right on.
Well, one person who has been along the way, every step of the way with you for going back to Fruitvale Station, and who is now a first-time Oscar nominee, overdue, is one Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say he plays 2 characters in this, but the truth is it's even more when you think about certain possessions and ways of things that go on that I won't get too deep into. But I guess I wonder if you can talk about, you know, reflecting on that collaboration, what it was that you saw in him that, and could you have imagined that all, you know, 13 years later, you'd still be doing big things together?
I mean, I was blown away by Mike before I started working with him. You know, like I thought some of his performance he had done on television was pretty exceptional. Even as a kid, he played a character named Wallace in the early season of The Wire, and I think it was just a heartbreaking and true performance. And you know, when we met, he had like a decade plus career. You know. And I was just hoping that he would take a chance on the movie. But what I didn't know is that nobody had taken a chance on him as a lead. You know, I hadn't you know, processed that. And so we both, in many ways, took a necessary chance on each other. And as soon as we got to work, we realized that we had like a rhythmic connection. You know, and Mike's incredibly kind, man. He's professional, but incredibly kind and empathetic, you know. And I think it comes from him having been a working actor since he was a kid. Like, he's done every job you can have as an actor. He's been background. He's been a day player. He's been a co-lead. He's been a part of an ensemble, you know. So he has just a respect for like everybody on the set. And when he's number one on your call sheet, there's a level of comfort that everybody has, that they can give their best and not worry about being disrespected or discounted. You know, he just elevates everybody's game that way. And at the same time, with that humility, there's like a really intense ambition. You know, Mike wants to be great. He wants to be the best version of himself. He wants to deliver. And I saw a lot of that, you know, in myself as well. And when you're blessed to have a long-term relationship like this, and it's a lot of filmmakers here that have these types of relationships over their career that that you guys have already spoken to. But I know Chloe, I know Joachim, I know Josh, you know, and you know, you get a shorthand, and when you're making a movie, you kind of at war against time, you know. That's where there's no physical opponent there, but it's time, which becomes money, which becomes, you know, everything that you're racing against. And when you can be very effective in a short amount of time, you know, it kind of gives you a incredible advantage, you know. And Mike and I can kind of, at this point, we can kind of know what the other person's thinking. We don't got to say too much. You know, we kind of know when we need another take or when we want to try something different. And it's a great base for the rest of the cast and crew, you know, to find their rhythm.
You've said that you don't, I don't think any of your films have been without some kind of personal connection to the story that's important for you to have. And I wonder, you know, somebody might look at Sinners and say, you know, the kind of horror aspects or things like what could the connection be? But I've heard you talk about it, and it's really amazing to see how the threads came together. And I wonder if you can explain. This is a very personal movie for you.
Yeah, and it's personal for me in every way. You know, every single thread of it. For me, I felt incredibly blessed that all of the feature films that I made that came out in theaters internationally, you know, and that's rare in this day and age. So I felt like I had I've been done a solid by the film going audience, you know, for a decade plus, and I realized that that you know, just by circumstance of the movies that I made, they didn't really know what kind of movies I just loved. You know what I mean? And I grew up on what you would call genre cinema. You know, that's you know, that's the love language, man. Films like The Thing and you know, anything John Carpenter made. You know, like we were you know, that's what me and my little brothers were watching, and my dad was watching, my mom, you know. And we were a Twilight Zone house. Every New Year's Day, Sci-Fi Channel, you know what I mean, we would wake up and turn it on, just like watch them until our, until we couldn't keep our eyelids open no more. You know what I mean? And just like that, that's where my heart was. And we went through the strikes, we went through the pandemic, and I kind of got scared that I hadn't shown that side of myself to the audience yet, and I felt like a little bit chicken shit, So when this idea kind of hit me, I got very excited about that part. All of the other stuff, Mississippi, sharecropping blues music, that's from a very obviously personal place. My Uncle James Edmondson, who passed away in 2015, that was all him, and that was all of our relationship. I was the kid that would sit under this old man and just listen to listen to blues music and watch baseball with him. And when he passed away, I would find myself listening to those songs with a new ear, and I would close my eyes and feel like I was conjuring his presence. So the movie is really like a fusion of those, of those two things.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And yeah. Last question I'm gonna bother you with before we convene the whole crew. The scene that we saw there, I don't know what you refer to it as with the proper way. I kind of talk about it as like a surreal moment in the film, the surreal scene. And I think it's as impressive kind of filmmaking as I've ever seen. It's unbelievable the way you bring together all these aspects of your cinematographer and your actors and the choreography and the whole with a point, like what you're saying, bringing in the modern day kind of people alongside the people from the period. And I just wonder if you can talk about that sequence in the film, how it kind of originated, and what you think when you see it played back.
Yeah, it's funny, we call it the surreal montage. It's but yeah, it came from a place like a screenwriting wise, it's our midpoint, and I tried to be fairly structurally precise when I was first writing the script, and I knew that at the midpoint, Sammy would have to perform. And the movie is kind of leading up to how great this kid is at playing music. And when I first plotted it out, it was nothing really supernatural about the performance. But when I started writing the screenplay, I fell in love with the characters. I just felt like head over heels in love with every single one of them. And I didn't want to have to kill them all at the end, right? Even though that was what the movie called for, and I can't remember when I was in class, man. But at some point in film school, I learned that like if your movie is a tragedy, then the midpoint or the end of the second act should be like an incredible victory, or if, they call it a false victory sometimes. So I was like, okay, so this is kind of a false victory moment, but it didn't feel like it was appropriate to take these sharecroppers and that were living through the 1930s and just like kill them all by vampires, and that's like the end of the movie. I feel like we had to give them something to balance, what was coming. And that was kind of where the idea of like, well, wouldn't it be cool if they could, experience just spending some time with their ancestors and their descendants that wouldn't be, condemned to a life of sharecropping, and just party with them at the same time in this juke joint. And that's where the idea came from. And it informed Remy's character as well.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Right on.
Thank you. What we are gonna do right now is take a approximately 2.5-minute timeout in order to allow our friends to set up the stage for the Avengers to assemble. So right now we're gonna give Ryan a break, and then we'll see you in a minute. But thanks again for being here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Please join me in welcoming back Ryan Coogler, Josh Safdie, Joachim Trier, and Chloe Zhao.
Ooh, look at how like very soft.
Okay, welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys. I thought maybe we'd begin by establishing how much history there might be between the folks up here. I know that at least 3 of you go back at least to 2012. Maybe there's more than the 3, but who would like to jump first?
Yeah, I could jump first. At the Sundance Screenwriters Lab, 2012, I met the great Chloe Zhao, who was also a fellow that year, and Joachim was one of the advisors. And we have these nights where we watch everybody's movies. Chloe had a short film that she shot in China, and I'd never seen a movie shot in China before by a student, and it was incredible. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm in the wrong place. And then one special night, they showed us Joachim's movie, Oslo, August 31st, right? And it was just like, I don't know if have y'all seen this movie? It's mind-numbingly good. Like, and I remember just being cracked open that this young dude had made this movie with like a lot of his friends. It was your friends, and a lot of your friends you made that movie with, right? Yeah, and I remember it was just like I remember after the movie let out, it was just a big line of all the folks when they go talk to Joachim. So I've been friends with these two since that was it January? Yeah, January.
Yeah, it was winter. It was cold. I had my Norwegian puffer jacket with me. I was extremely honored. Isn't it really? I'm the old one now. You hear? Because I just finished my second feature, and they said, "Do you want to be an advisor?" And I felt like I should have hung out with you guys and tried to figure out how to make movies still. So I was very honored. And you were so good. I mean, like what the hell could I teach you? But as we've learned through the years, it's a collegial thing. We all learn all the time, and we share stuff. And I remember being editing consultant. You showed me some cuts on Fruitvale Station. And I sat in Norway and saw that beautiful film you made and felt honored to give some stupid notes. I don't hope you listen to me, but...
A couple of them I probably should listen to better, but...
No, but that was good, and following your careers. But I will try to tie this gentleman into it as well, if I may.
Please.
I was not there. I asked them before, I was like, what happens at the Sundance Lab? I was always like, I was never invited to the party.
You were too cool for the
You made
party.
your own
You
party.
say that, but I would have gone to the party if someone invited me.
But you, not only, I mean, we admire this guy. You're so cool. No, but the energy in your movies, the style, the way you make them is so specific and so personal, But also, you've acted with a friend of mine, Anders Danielsen Lee, in a French film that was Michael Ers directed, and Anders played the lead in Oslo, August 31st. And they acted together in a film around that time. Yeah, so there we are. Anyway. That's the closest
That's
I get to trying to tie it all in.
I also have something with him. Like, I didn't know him, but he was so kind of like famous at NYU. He didn't go, too cool to go, but we all know the Safdie brothers films. And his first 2 films, Pleasure Being Robbed and Daddy Long Legs, I even know the name he initially named Daddy Long Legs, that isn't where the studio made him change it. Like, I knew everything about him. He didn't know who I was.
Well, Chloe, because you were at NYU.
And I saw her early films, and I felt a special kindred spirit, the way she was using documentary and fusing it with narrative.
Yes, they're definitely.
I love everybody here on the stage. Let me just say that. I'm honored to be on it with you. Me too. Honored.
Along those lines, I thought we might try something where I'm going to really ask you to stick to the policy of the question, which is, I know everyone here would probably love to say wonderful things about each other, but for this question, please tell us just one thing about one other person's film up here that kind of blew your mind.
Oh.
So, I saw Josh, maybe would you like to lead off this round?
You want me to lead the round?
If you'd like, just
For
to,
each?
no, to go first. No. Again, only one.
Only one person's film?
One person's, just something about it that, as a fellow filmmaker, you were struck by.
Oh, man.
Any of the films up here.
I could do it for each film. I gotta pick one?
Pick one.
Jeez. I'm trying to like watch all the movies in my head again right now. You know, it's tough. You could go with a small idea. Watch what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to totally usurp your problem here. You could go with a small idea like when Stellan uses Netflix to get out of a cinematographer deal. Or you could go with a, you know, a metaphysical, you know, reach for literally the cosmos and span time of the history of music, in particular Black American music, and you maybe in Ryan's film, or you could talk about the power. You could talk about the power of the collective experience of watching something in Chloe's movie. So I can't really make a decision.
Well, you know.
Or the genius idea of using ping pong as an allegory of America. I mean,
Yeah.
You're not getting it's too hard for us.
You know,
because we
that's
all love
okay.
each other.
That's okay. We'll go. We'll keep moving.
Maybe
I
other
hear you.
people will be a little bit more straight about it. So.
Okay, so we can talk about other things.
Good job.
What has been, and for some of you guys have done this rodeo before of the award season. Some, you know, in fact, all of you, I think, in one way or another, have been a part of it. And I'd like to ask, what is the most enjoyable and least enjoyable aspect of the whole circus of these months that, you know, you're certainly rightly being recognized for beautiful work, but I know it can be a grind. So, Chloe, what's the best and worst aspect of it?
It's obvious what the best is.
Hanging out, yeah.
The worst, I have a lot of sensory issues. So when there's a big room and everyone's talking at the same time, I leave my body.
Fair enough. Fair
So,
enough.
but this time I put the Max Richter's Sleep album.
Oh, yeah.
And I can hear everyone, but then somehow it brings me back.
Yeah. Joachim?
I think today was one of the really great days. We were at the Oscar luncheon.
Yeah.
And it moved me. It's moving because you sit there and they bring everyone on a stage and you see there's an egalitarian, beautiful cinematic approach to it, that someone made a short film, someone did sound, someone is Steven Spielberg, and we're all on the same stage. And I was very moved, and also to see the cast, you know, our actors up there, which we know what they went through, we know the struggles, we know how deep they go to create the stuff that we are sitting here being directors and being proud of those collaborations, and that's really moving. And the worst is just flying a lot and having jet lag and then getting home to the kids that you'd love and they want to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning. And but that's also the beauty of this, huh?
I think the best part is, you know, what you learn about your own film in many ways. I mean, that comes from showing a movie, releasing it anyway. And then there gets this kind of strange tipping moment when the film is kind of acknowledged in some way, you know, and then you don't know if you can trust the audience anymore. But it is, you still learn. You're still learning about it. You're spending a lot of time with this one piece of work, and sometimes you don't know where an idea comes from, and it starts to be reflected back at you, and you can learn about yourself, and it's the beauty of art. You know, the hard part is just like you're away from, I miss my girls, and like, it's just tough, you know? It's, you just don't have that kind of regularity. And I kind of became accustomed, just particularly with the pandemic and stuff like that. You got your way. Yeah. And you don't have that when you're doing this. It's a grind.
For sure.
I got the exact same negatives as Joachim and Josh here, and it's extra complicated because I work with my wife who like Capital P produced this one with me and our partner Sev. So we got 3 kids. One she just gave birth to like 6 months ago. 6 months, yeah. So like when we both have to be somewhere for a movie, both the kids don't have either one of their parents. So that's a tough one. But the good part, I think, is like, it's actually nice when you meet people whose movies you admire. That happens a lot. Like you hear about people, and a lot of times these events are your first chance to your first chance to meet them. It was like that with you guys' cast on this. You know, got to meet Inga or Stellan or Timothy or Jesse. You know, and it's like man, these movies blew my mind. Your performances blew my mind. Now we in the same room. Oh, now I see what you are like as a person. So now I got even greater admiration for your performance because you're nothing like, you know, like what I watched on screen. So that part's awesome.
And these rooms that you guys find yourselves in this time of year and festivals and things that lead up to it, I know can actually fuel the next project, right? Because Chloe, where did you first cross paths with Jesse Buckley?
Jesse and Paul at Telluride.
At the Telluride Film Festival when you were there for...
Just chilling.
Chilling.
Yeah.
and was she there? That was Lost Daughter?
I think she was with, Paul was with After Song. She was with Women Talking.
Women Talking, right. So relationships can come out of it too. All right, so let's imagine a different world. If you had not wound up becoming a filmmaker, Josh Safdie, what would you be doing today?
I keep going first. Architect.
Architect.
That's what I wanted to be when I was a kid, and I studied it. I studied it in a more, kind of, academic way. I never did it in practice, but there is a firm that has responded to the way I believe in the narrative of buildings, and they heard me talk about that once. So I have an out.
That's great.
I have an out.
Shall we go to Ryan?
Fuck. Actually, I mean, I like to make coffee. So I probably would sell that.
Nice. Chloe? How about you, Chloe?
I wanted to be a private detective, but really badly. But then I even looked into at CSI. I looked at what it needs to become one, and you actually have to study a lot of chemistry and also it's actually dangerous.
You are in your own way as a...
So I kind of maybe make believe is it better. Yeah.
Joachim?
Ooh, I already said that I'm really grateful and emphasized it because I really don't know how to do anything else.
You were a pretty good skateboarder from what I
but that's a long time
time
ago, my friends. No, I think something with people. I mean, I don't have the academic skills, I'm sure, but to be a psychologist or a therapist.
You're a therapist.
Oh, that's a great compliment. I'm blushing. Yeah, no, I admire them.
Whose opinion about your work do you care most about?
Oh, no, not me. You go first.
You go first?
Yeah, no, it's complicated. It's complicated because in a way, a film becomes a commodity in the world, and you need critics to like it. But as Baudelaire once said, to ask an artist how they feel about a critic is like asking a lamppost how they feel about dogs. So, it's complicated, but we need them, and Scott, we are grateful when people actually, it's just like you're there.
Does a lamppost need a dog? No.
I didn't say that. So,
my wife, I'll say my
let's
wife.
twist the metaphor. So sometimes dogs go into alleys and drag out some weird shit that no one else saw and put it into the light, okay? So there we go. So there's something about, we need critics to to show and open our work at best. But who do we care about personally? I mean, I care a lot about actually my collaborators that we make it together. Yeah. So, that's important. Eskil Vogt, who I write with, he comes into the edit. It's the scariest moment,
Right.
I mean, obviously my co-writer, co-editor, but I would say my wife. Mm-hmm. She's a producer on the film, and she's nasty. She gives it to you. Oh yeah, no bullshit, and she doesn't even have to say anything. That's the crazy part.
Just give you a look.
Have to say anything. It's like, oh man, what do you think about this? Okay, I'll be back in 20 minutes. I got it.
I'm gonna spin this a little for the other folks. Who's compliment about your current film has meant the most to you?
I care about my letterbox curve.
Yeah.
I do, because there's an audience. I mean, I also care about Rotten Tomato, but I shouldn't. I shouldn't. But no, but I actually go on Letterboxd and I read the reviews, because these are audiences. You know, they go out there, no one pays them to do that. And then they write some of them should do stand-up, because they're like, they're hilarious. And I would screen grab them and send it to Jesse and Paul, because they don't go online, those two. And they're awesome.
Nice. Ryan, any particular compliments stand out?
Man, I've been blessed on this one, right? I got to show it to a lot of my mentors, and they all at least told me they liked it to my face. You know, but we got to do something real special. And you know, our movie is set in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and right, is somebody from Clarksdale in here? Wow, that's amazing. I got a homie named Sam Flesher from out of yeah, you know Sam, and Chloe, you probably know Sam too. But he started like a Far Rockaway film festival, and I saw him in New York, and he said this term to me called cinema desert. Like I heard food desert before, but cinema desert wasn't a term that I heard, and he was telling me about how Far Rockaway, Queens was the biggest cinema desert in New York.
Oh yeah, there's no theaters.
Yeah, and so Clarksdale, Mississippi, massive cinema desert. And we had this movie that was out that was about that place, kind of steeped in the history of that place. And the people there, they couldn't see it unless they drove like 2 hours out of town. And this young man named Tyler Yarbrough, who's an organizer there, a young black man, like 26, 27 years old. He wrote an open letter saying that how much he liked the film, but he was challenging Warner Brothers and the filmmakers to bring the film to Clarksdale. So we did it. You know, like Warner Brothers set up a big theater in Clarksdale, in a community center that they have, like big high quality projector and sound system, put Atmos in there, and they opened it up for about a week for people to be able to come watch. And when I heard that people there in the community were going back a second, a third, or fourth time because they liked it, that made me feel pretty nice. Yeah.
Last couple of quickies. Quentin Tarantino has said that he's only going to make one more film because he says that when filmmakers reach a certain age, generally the quality of the work declines. Do you agree? Do you ever see yourselves retiring, or do you want to do this until they cart you off from a set one day? Like, what do you make of that idea?
To work is to live.
Yeah.
You know, and blessed to work, and I hope I die working.
Yeah.
I think maybe he meant like they get too comfortable. That's a problem when you get too comfortable.
Yeah.
And you have people around you who they're embracing the comfort. So that could be a problem.
Yeah.
But man, no, work sets you free.
Yeah. Sounds good. Oh yeah, please. If you want, I thought you maybe wanted to say. So no, we'll go to this.
I can't. No, I saw this movie by Michael Haneke called Amour.
Yeah.
Fucking shattered me. And it was like, I feel like it was a movie only an elder filmmaker could make. And it made me look at life differently. I think about that movie probably like every day.
Yeah.
You know? So I hope like elder people don't stop making movies.
Yeah.
I think it's like they got a lot to teach us, you know what I'm saying?
Totally. Earlier this year, I believe it was, Charlie XCX declared Joachim Trier Summer, which made it very cool. You know, it's your cool factor, I think, it was already high, and I think that could have only elevated it further. Basically highlighting, you know, an artist who she greatly admired. And I want to present that opportunity to the group up here to shout out, if we're going to do it a little bit differently, a film that came out in the last year that maybe hasn't gotten the love that your films rightly have? Is there another film that you want to, alert people to?
I'll say Heather. Nia DeCosta's movie Heather. Starring Tessa Thompson.
Yes.
That was a real great one.
Yes.
Y'all seen Heather?
I think it's on Amazon now. You can see it also. I mean, big screen preferably, but anybody else you want to shout out?
I recently watched Sorry Baby by Eva Victor. I thought that was a really specific film and very well made, so yeah.
I might get the name wrong, and that's terrible. But there's an animated film called Little Emily.
Yeah.
Little Emily. I couldn't, this morning the filmmaker stopped me in front of the bathroom, said, I love your work, I made this film, Little Emily. I screamed so loud. I scared her, I think, because I had to stop that film multiple times and just to sob uncontrollably and start again. It's an incredible film.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I mean, he was acknowledged, but at a big degree. But definitely, my brother's film was a special movie. So
Smashing Machine.
very special movie. So
Yes, excellent. Totally.
Smashing Machine.
Well, what we are going to do with our remaining minutes here is bring back the executive director of the film festival, Roger Durling, who is going to have a cool surprise presentation for us.
Well, but before I do that, special thanks to Scott Feinberg for the phenomenal moderation. Yeah. It is my great pleasure to introduce one of the greatest artists working both in painting and in cinema today. Please give a warm welcome to the maestro, Julian Schnabel.
Hello. Good, bro. Nice to see you, man.
Hey, how are you? Hello.
Good job.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go back over there now. You know, you're a big fan?
It's Julian's world, people.
And I guess you said something.
Hi, everybody. Well, what can you say? I mean, everybody that's sitting over there is so radically different, but in one way, they're all the same. They all want to make work. They want to make something, and each one of these people has their own path. And if you can invent a way, I mean, we're all given, it's a palimpsest, right? It's all there. All this stuff is here already. So it's no personal language, there's just a personal selection of language. So you get something that already exists, and you take it, and you turn it into something that didn't exist before. And you've all been able to do that. And so that's why I'm standing here with Roger. And I wanted to just say it's an honor to say that to you guys, and to you are not a guy. But my daughter, who's 4 years old, she calls my wife and I guys. So you're a guy now, for a second. Congratulations. And
Two at a time.
okay, 2 at a time. Okay. I'm going to hand out these awards.